Beyond Meat up 10% pre-market as the company had earnings last night. They look to grab some share now that meat supply in this country is being threatened. Jim asked the McDonald's CEO about that very phenomenon during an interview last week. Take a listen.
I certainly expect that over time that you will see plant-based on the McDonald's menu. I think for us, the question is really about when. And our system operates best at scale. We don't do hobbies really well. And so when we bring plant-based onto the menu, we need to be confident that there's a sufficient level of demand that really will allow it to stick on the menu. And so that's going to be a country-by-country decision. I think there are going to be some countries that are further along on that than others. But I do expect that we will have plant-based on the menu. It's just a question of when.
I think the pandemic is speeding up a lot of things. We're going plant-based. I think that the Tyson performance was so abysmal. That recognition that the meatpacking places somehow, no matter how much they follow the CDC and the rules, they can't seem to stay clean. I think Beyond Meat, I know when I was at Costco, Beyond Meat is just a huge seller. They've been hurt by food service, but there's a groundswell. It's not Zoom with 300 million, but I think that there are people who are getting appalled by what's happened at the Meatpackers. And the more we read about it, the more we think, you know what? Beyond Meat is the way to be able to get protein, but skip that thing called the industrial cow.
You've got Ethan Brown on tonight, Jim.
Yep.
And I guess that means you are not heartened by Tyson resuming production in Waterloo this week?
Well, I'm glad that they closed it. But look, I just think, there's something obviously wrong when you have factories that you're doing everything you can to keep this disease out. Let's hope that the Waterloo works. But I think these stories make you become not necessarily a vegetarian, but to think twice about beef. And then you think twice about beef and then you try Beyond, you kind of realize it's very, very similar. They're both protein sources. The new Beyond sausages are much better in terms of the kind of ingredients that we used to get. The price differential could be big. At last, Ethan Brown may have that price differential where he's cheaper coming under the beef complex. And it's a really important ethos, not a hobby. And I love Chris. I think he runs a great chain. I think the franchisees, they just don't want it. Who wants another line, basically a line where you have to do something that's anti your core business? But Ethan Brown he's a missionary. For 10 years, he proselytized, and I think it's hitting home. I think it's a real trend. I had Impossible on last week. Now, they are GMO, which is something that obviously is a curse word among some. But, wow, this movement's happening, and you got to get on the bus or get left behind.
But, Jim, I think it's important to put it in some perspective. I mean, you're still talking about a company in Beyond Meat that did, $97 million in revenues? I mean, these are still very small numbers, growing off that base, obviously, at a very high rate, but nothing compared to some of the bigger companies.
Look, it starts like that. I mean, Nestle's picked it up because they think it's, when I had Nestle CEO on, he said, look, this is a must in Europe. So, I mean, it starts like this. I don't think it doesn't begin with $1 billion. But this is not a blockbuster drug. But watch this trend. I think it's very exciting for investors.